Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to the Common Ground with I am Chells X on the Lapeef Network, baby. Pilot. Happy to have y'all here. Everybody get all in, get all settled down, and all of that good stuff. Let me introduce my panel. Julie, entrepreneur. You got to unmute your mic.
Hello.
How are you tonight, Julie?
Good. How's everybody? Thank you for having me.
Good, good, good. Madam Denise, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thanks for having me as well.
Realtor extraordinaire.
Woo
Ooh, ooh. Some of y'all know the Dr. Lady O. How are you doing? Avoiding the rain?
Doing good.
Good. Happy to have you here. And my man, Dr. Robert Evans III. I had to drop my man's government on there. How you feeling, Doc?
Feeling good, brother. Good to be here.
Good, 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 good. So tonight we're gonna have a conversation about why men stay silent. Why are men silent about their emotions in relationships? Why do men find it difficult to open up? What emotions it is that men feel okay about opening up, and how did we get here? So I like to do a round robin first to get everybody's general opinion on the topic, and then we could delve into all of the particulars. So we'll start with Julie. Julie, do you think in general that men have a difficult time opening up?
Yes. I'm going to say yes. There's several reasons, but the one that really sticks in my head is that a lot of men are trained from childhood to just be quiet. Um, when we're children, anytime you see a young boy cry or want to express himself, he's always told to suck it up and keep it moving. And I think that primarily would be one of the reasons why, as an adult, a man um, would think twice before expressing himself.
That early childhood
Yeah,
experience
early
of
childhood.
being told to basically suppress how you feel, don't show the world how you feel. Okay, so we
Yeah.
got childhood on the board. Dr. Lady O, what is your perspective? What do you think? Do you think men have a difficult time opening up, and if so, why?
Um, yeah, they do. It's what part of what Julie said. Also, they have a distrust, because they have, especially when it comes down to partnerships, in relationships, marriages, they have told vulnerable things, and when they argue, we know some people throw it back in your face. So we tend to not let things go when things told to us. So they don't trust us. That's
When you say
another.
us, you mean the women?
They don't trust us. No, don't trust the women. Some other men as well, but um, mainly us women. They don't trust us to really be vulnerable. Whether it's our mothers, whether it's our sisters, don't have to necessarily be marriage or relationship. It could be just women. Period. They don't trust us because of what, Miss Julie. So because they're told to suck it up, you're not a man, or they're known as sassy. You're not a man. Um, and such. So, yeah, they just really just suck it up.
Okay. Do you think that, and Denise, I'm gonna get to you next, but Dr. Lady O, do you think that there are certain emotions that men are okay with expressing publicly?
Yeah, the bad side
The bad.
when they can't control their emotions, and we see it and hear about it in the news, something they done to somebody. Yeah, but other than that, I mean, you look at the unaliving rate. They men have men usually use tactics that they know they're gonna unalive themselves. They
Mm-hmm.
know they're gonna. That's why they use guns. They use jumping off stuff. Women use more like, not saying women don't, but for the most, I did the study on it. Women do more stuff like pills. They do things that more have a higher probability to survive, basically. So, but men, when they want to do it, they're not. There's no turning back. So, um, I think that when they do show their emotions, it's not the good side.
Not against that. Okay, cool. Denise, what's your opinion? Do you think men have a difficult time showing emotions?
Absolutely, and I agree with both Julie and Lady O. It starts in childhood, but I think it goes through up into adulthood. Um, and same, I think it's parents, girlfriends, even other men. I think shut down um, if another male is opening up or talking too emotional. So I think it's across the board.
Okay, got you. And last but not least, Dr. E.
I think the ladies touched on a lot of great points with respect to how young men were raised, and it's soft if you cry, and you got to suck it up. And then also the component of just not being able to open up to their women. One of I think the greatest challenge being in private practice and working with couples and individuals, men and women, the greatest challenge that I've seen for men is communication and self-expression. But I've also seen when men have mustered up the courage to speak, the women didn't know how to handle it. So I've seen both of those things, but I also add that there's a generational component to it, because as we are, becoming more quote unquote awake and accepting of so many different things now in our culture, it's being more accepted for young men to be able to express themselves. So your younger kids have opinion. Like my youngest son, who's 11, he actually has an opinion. He actually has the opportunity to express himself, right? Whereas my oldest son, who's turning 26, he couldn't express himself. So it's becoming more and more accepting for younger generation of boys to be able to have a voice. So it is a generational component to it.
Okay, so that's interesting. So because you have an older son and a younger son, which means obviously you were younger when you raised the older son. Are there any differences in your parenting styles that may have contributed to the older one being a little less likely to open up and the younger one being more willing to open up?
Absolutely. I think that it's, I think anybody who's a parent understands that your firstborn is the one that you make all the mistakes. You get it all wrong, right? So you got to learn how to become a parent, right? So, my oldest son, he went through it, and it's because of my lack of, knowledge and wisdom and understanding of how to best parent. And also my indoctrination as a man, and feeling like this is what is manly and this is what is acceptable is for a boy. Like I didn't allow him to do any. I mean, like if he hit the ground, he had to hop up immediately. He didn't have a chance to say ow or dag or none of that. You did hop up, right? Whereas it's kind of similar with my youngest, but it's different. The communication is just way more welcoming. Like he gets to have a conversation versus do it because I said so and sit down and shut up. Like it's just different, right? So there's a component there of my parenting style that improved, but it's still the same across the board generationally, where generationally younger boys are just, is so much more that's acceptable now that like even now with like young men wearing like the little fanny packs over their shoulders. When I was coming up, that wouldn't have been acceptable.
Right.
That's everybody's doing that now. The fanny pack shoulder joint, you would have got fried. In my
Okay. So,
we're not
right.
doing that. We're not wearing the fanny pack shoulder joint. Get that out of here. But it's acceptable now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that hits on the cultural and the designer and all of that good stuff. But even if it's acceptable now, then Dr. Lady O said they wearing skirts at ATL. Um, it's acceptable now. So even in wearing the fanny pack, they could still be safe from being bullied or picked on, which still doesn't give them the freedom to express their emotions. You understand what I'm saying?
Man, they running their mouth way more than they did. it's just different, man. Younger generation of boys and younger men are way more self-expressive than we were. So I think it's changing.
Okay. Yes or no? Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it has its pros and cons.
Okay. So we'll get to the pros and cons. But my man Viz stepped into the room. What's up, Viz?
What's going on? How y'all doing? Peace to the panel. Peace to
Good,
everybody in
good.
the chat.
Bro.
How you feeling, my brother?
Man, all is well. We above ground, so I don't have no complaints.
Hey Viz, you a cool dude, young. You your aesthetics right now remind me of the Martin episode where he had the Rottweiler. All black with the gold chain.
Yeah. Hey, I was just watching Cole talk about that scene. He said that they didn't know that he was going to have the fake dog. It was supposed to be a real dog, so that made the scene that much more funnier in real time.
When you was watching that joint, when you were watching that clip, were they playing clips of the show?
Yeah, they was playing clips of the show.
You peep how they was trying not to laugh, or how they was laughing and they was trying to cover their faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. But tonight, I don't know if you caught it. We're talking about why men stay silent. So, in general, why do you think that men have a difficult time opening up emotionally?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I know me personally, I just turned 39, and I just really began to explore what vulnerability looks like once I turned, 33, 34. And even then it was still kind of difficult to to fully open up in that. Just with me growing up where I grew up and seeing the things I've seen, being around the people I was around, vulnerability will get you killed or deleted, where I'm from. So be it with friends, family, whatever the case. So that was always something, a wall for me that was up. And as I became more aware and more open to expressing and showing these feelings and understanding that, hey, I'm a human being at the end of the day, and these emotions that I'm feeling, I'm supposed to feel it. Now, people go about expressing them differently. I think, to Dr. E's point, what we see now with young men is the crash out era, where they're feeling these emotions and they're just letting it run right then and there, compared to um as a man being able to feel it, being able to sit in it, but also being able to control it or manage it, if that's the safer word for it. So for me, I think what we are seeing now is more people opening up to it. But I think, to your point, Chell, that too much of it could be dangerous as well at the same time.
I'm glad you said that, because the next question, and I'll open it up to the panel and then I'll get Quell in here. Based on what Dr. E is saying, do y'all think that maybe the pendulum has swung too far the other way, right? From one generation to the other, where one generation was forced to repress and suppress emotions, and now the newer generation is just so emotional that they may be reacting out of emotions, or trying to follow the trends of being emotional just to be in the in crowd. And anybody on the panel can voice their opinion on that one.
Yeah, I think to answer Dr. E's question, I would have preferred how things used to be, because at least you could push the younger generation to begin to learn how to express themselves. Because currently, it's like, how do you even contain it? It's like a monster that you can't even contain at this point, because the younger generation, they don't know how to control their emotions. So everything is to the extreme. And we see that now every day. Somebody's putting hands on somebody because they don't know how to use their words. So it feels like it went in the complete opposite direction, and now we can't contain it.
Just to add to that, there was a time where you could go in the public, go in the metro, and kids, if there was an adult in the metro, you wouldn't cuss. There was some things you just wouldn't say around women and older people. It's none of that no more, right? So, to Julie's point, it is gone, to an extreme point. But I think on both ends of the spectrum, it just requires people to step up. It requires us to step up. It requires education. It requires us to check it, just like we needed to check it on one end of the spectrum when we say, look, you got, it's okay to express yourself. It's okay to cry. On the other end, we all got to say, look, that's not cool. Like I was on the metro on a train. It was a group of young kids. They were probably high school, and they were cutting up bad. And everybody just like, I ain't saying nothing, including me. I'm like, right, watching it. And it was a white guy in a military outfit who actually said something, because the young girl was telling one of the boys that she was with to stop because he kept picking with her. So he musters up the courage and says, why don't you just listen to it? Why don't you just stop? They ganged up on this guy. And she was...
They jumped him?
They didn't fight him, but they just turned on him. You know what I mean? They went in, right? There's like absolutely no respect. But, it does require us to just check it, man. We got to do something about either extreme.
I think that brings up a great point too. Even going back to that vulnerability, right? I would say just how I was raised in a situation like that. If I see some YNs, they wilding out, I'm a damn near say, I may not want to, but I'm gonna try to like, hey, bro, chill out, man. Whatever. But the problem is with that, like you said, doctor, that could easily turn on you. There's so many situations of where DV cases have happened, and someone is being a good Samaritan, and it ends bad for them. So it's a weird place, I would say now for sure, because you want to get involved, but you don't want to get involved because you don't know where it's going to go. So it's a difficult position, I think, for men, especially men like us, for us to decide whether or not is this something that's worth getting involved with.
We definitely got to pick our spots. Some cases it's like I gotta say something. In some cases, I'm like, we got to pick our spots. But you're right. But it needs to really be a movement. You know what I mean? And we can't negate the power of the women in accepting some of the stuff that these young men are doing. Like, I mean, it's so easy to check this stuff. Like I went to I went to Towson University, went to the homecoming a couple of years back, and the kid had his pants so far down below his waist. And it was a beautiful young sister talking to this guy. And I'm like, what is she doing? Like, why is she even having a conversation with this guy? So I said to her, I said, you can control this, right? And I sparked up a conversation about it because I'm like the old head at the club just now, like all these young people around. I'm like, I gotta say something to this, right? And she felt like it was cool. It's like, it's cool, but it's so much power. And if all y'all gotta do is say, man, pick your pants up, but don't holler at me, and it'll change the game.
Got you, Quill.
What's that, man? What's going on?
I appreciate you showing up, man. How you feeling?
I'm all right, man. Just unwinding after a long day, but it's it's all good as long as I got breath. As long as
you,
I got breath, that's all that matter.
got you. Topic is why men stay silent. Why do you think men have a difficult time opening up emotionally?
Because it's a weak point. It's a weak point because it's I think typically we're not used to having to do it, and especially people my age, like we didn't I was born in the 90s, so I didn't really necessarily have a good example of what healthy emotional expression was. um I think that a lot of times we because I was taught, man, boys don't cry, and you got to keep it in. And but then I expressed this to you the other day, and this is something that I learned even when in my relationship with my wife. I had to learn that balance between when I need to roar like a lion and when I need to be gentle as a lamb. Like sometimes I'm too abrasive, and then it's sometimes where I'm too gentle. And it's like you got to figure out where that fine balance is. Like, and that I think that's where I'm at now. Like in my relationship, is I'm finding. I think I've found like that fine balance to know when to do it and when not to, and when it's necessary. And I think that's where we, especially as black men, I think that's where we lack at, because sometimes either either we're too hard or we're too soft, and we don't know how to kind of come and meet that middle that men actually need to have.
Right. I got you. Okay, for the ladies, if a man opens up to you emotionally, does that make you begin to see him as weak? No?
I think,
No, you
I
got to be
think,
strong. Tell us.
I
yeah,
didn't
that's what I was gonna.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
You got to be strong to tell us. Yeah. No, but I don't see him as being weak. I don't. I see him as starting. I see him as being. He started to let his guard down, far as being able to trust someone, in his life. But I don't see him as being weak.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I
Julie, you had
think,
something?
yeah, I was gonna say that level of vulnerability takes a lot of strength um, to be able to trust, a woman with whatever it is that you got going on when we live in a world that people just don't care about what we got going on. So I think that's a powerful thing. I just wish women saw that as a responsibility, so that way we took care of that level of vulnerability versus laughing at him or using it against him in an argument later on. If we see that as a different level of responsibility toward this person, then I think the a man would be more expressive.
Okay. Denise, did you have something to add?
No, I was just going to agree that I think there's strength in the calm, and I think that even like, to me, the calmness is strength. It is. You don't have to roar. You don't have to yell to know that you're strong, and for the men to be okay being vulnerable, even if it's not accepted by your women or whoever you're talking to, but just be like, this is how I'm feeling, and it's okay. And whether you respond how I wanted you to respond or not, I'm still okay with it. But
Okay.
just
Has a
accepting
man
how you are.
got you? Has a man ever opened up to you and it just simply made you uncomfortable?
No, I haven't experienced that.
You never experienced that?
Mm-mm. To be honest and vulnerable, that I'm uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, like I'm not asking was your response a negative response. I'm talking about what occurred internally. Like, have you ever had a man come to you and express that he's, I don't know, sad, or he's feeling down, or he hurt,
Oh yeah.
and he's crying, and you're like, oh, what do I do with what if, like, there's a pause. What am I supposed to do with this? Have you ever experienced that?
I've experienced men crying. I experienced multiple men crying, but I didn't see it as a weakness.
I would shift the question. I would shift the question if whatever he was expressing was pertaining to you, if it was something that an emotion that you invoked in him. His reply to that, has that ever made you uncomfortable?
No, something came to my mind just now. Something came to my mind where someone was expressing, but I thought it was manipulation by the time we got there. So the tears, they didn't matter anymore, right? Because of the events leading up to that point. So now I was kind of cold because I'm sitting there like, now you want to cry? We passed that,
He wasn't getting nurturing Denise at that point. He was already.
We passed that. He had nurturing Denise, right? He had that. He had the babe, and then it got to like, all right, well.
Nah, I see that. I'm glad you said that. This is the issue, because that's why I wanted to chime in, because it's easy to ask the ladies, if a guy ever express himself to you, man, is that weak, strong? What is that? It's easy when you calm. It's easy when you're not in your feelings. It's easy when you're not mad. But when you are at the height of your anger, when you pissed off, and that guy's like, look, man, this is how I feel. And you like, I don't give a shit about how you feel. You just did X, Y, and Z.
Don't be screaming at me.
Right?
Don't yell at me.
It took, like you said, it took 30 minutes for him to get to that place where he finally cracked. And he finally said, and he got tears now. 30 minutes later.
Can you say it calmly, though? Can you say it calmly?
No. He don't know how to say it calmly. He don't know how to say it calmly. That's the thing. The thing is, when he finally expresses himself, it's going to come out wrong. It's not going to come out pleasant. It's not going to come out calm. But that's the moment where you got to be able to check your emotions and deal with where he's coming from. And how often does that happen?
Well, I think what I have learned is that just how the old book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We have two different ways that we communicate. Men are going to express, if you're doing something that makes him uncomfortable, he's going to express it the way that he knows how to express it. Denise, I love your long hair, but you got all this hair all over the place. It's all in the sink. This shit is going to be expensive as hell. I don't want to have to pay for a plumber to come get it out. Oh, okay. And it's brushed off. And then now you got to pay $1,000 for a plumber to come out. And now the frustration comes out, right? I think much rather than how women may say it in a different manner. I don't know if that was a good example, but just the way that we converse what it is that we're feeling, what I've learned is that it's just completely different. I just recently learned about I think it's the second emotions or something like that. So how you have your first emotions of angry, happy, whatever. Within that anger, are you feeling resentful? Are you frustrated, disappointed? Right? Before, I don't know. Shit, I'm just pissed off. That's all that I know. That's the only way. I'm just mad. That's the only way I know how to express it. But for women, I'm disappointed. I'm heartbroken. I'm going through all of these emotions that we as men, we understand. But as a man, I can't say that, oh man, that broke my heart. That growing up, at least, that wasn't something that was in a man's vocabulary. Even the older man that I was around, we just knew OG was pissed off. We just knew he was mad. You know, we knew he just wanted to be off to himself because he didn't know how to express himself aside from the way that we know how. So I think in light of that, what we see now are men learning how to express themselves the way that women express themselves. But I think that women aren't being taught or showed how men express themselves in order to better understand that man. And I think that that's where we're really seeing the clash at.
And
So
I wanted to ask too, though. Wanted to ask Denise. So whenever I asked, but whenever I was saying like roar, do you understand like what I mean by that? Like what that means to express it and why I expressed it in that way?
No, can you explain?
So the reason why I said that is because as women, a lot of times you guys will try to push our buttons. You will. You know, and y'all you know that you do this. And sometimes as a man, I gotta tell you, hey, we ain't doing this. And I gotta put my foot down. That's what I mean by roar. It don't mean I gotta yell, but I gotta put some bass where hey, or you might be in danger, or it might be something going on. And I gotta say, this is how it's gonna go. This is what we doing. And as a man, I need to be able to do that, but I need to have discernment to do that. I can't just be using that roar and abusing it, because then you don't understand when not to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
I don't.
hey, let me jump in right quick, Doc. Let me jump in right quick.
Uh,
I was just gonna say, because women don't know how to traverse men being emotional, it's not that they just don't want to see the man be emotional. A lot of the times women take the men's emotions personally. Like, a man could be mad about something that happened at work, and he's expressing that anger the way a man knows how to express his anger. And like Julie just said, why are you yelling at me? And it's like, yo, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just trying to tell you how I feel. This shit is blowing me at work. And then the woman's trying to tell him how to express his emotion. But you ain't got to yell. Well, damn it, if I can't express the emotion
Write
the
it
way I'm
down.
comfortable expressing the emotion, then don't ask me how I'm feeling. Just let me be. Just be like, yo, you good? Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, leave me alone. But you can't come back next week and then say, you need to talk. We need to talk. You need to talk about your emotions. Nah, last week when I talked about my emotions that didn't have anything to do with you, it scared you. So I think the ability of women to be able to traverse that is really important. But there's a flip side to it too. And I know we're not talking about women's emotions, but what men tend to do is, a woman has an emotional issue and we simply want to give her the solution. And so we end up bypassing her feelings, which are important to her. And we like, well, why don't you just do this? So we actually do the same things to each other. It's just in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're both trying to rush each other through the emotional process. But if it doesn't get processed, and Dr. E knows this, if it doesn't get processed, it's just going to show up in a blow up later on anyway. So, Dr. E, what were you going to say?
I just wanted to just chime in. I couldn't let the brother get that out and not make a comment on the roaring versus the not roaring in the relationship. I think that speaks to just the maturity of the relationship. At some point, I don't want you to feel like that you're going to always have to put bass in your voice for your woman to get it. So that comes with the maturation of the relationship. At some point, if, like you just said, if it's an emergency situation, I told my wife, she knows. I don't got to yell or none of that. If it's an emergency situation, I might just grab her hand a certain way and we moving. I don't need no hesitation. I don't need none of that. But it's all about just getting on the same page with one another. But I think that, you know, at some point, this shouldn't require you to change up bass versus, you know, roar versus not, for her to pay attention to what you have to say. Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like at certain points, I need to raise my voice so she get it.
Well, there's some women that you have to do that with, though. They're attractive to that. Like, if a man isn't doing that.
So then, again, this is your we talking about your relationship with your woman. If your woman requires that, that's something that y'all need to work through.
Well, no, not mine. I ain't saying mine, but
I'm saying any woman.
Vince,
no.
hey, Vince said, "Oh no, I just talk regular around my."
Yeah, no.
Well, look, this is me speaking from 10 years and being in a relationship with my wife. So this is not me saying like that. So this is me navigating through and finding out what works within. I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm just speaking from in like I think there are certain baselines that apply to everyone. But I think there's certain specifics that work within your relationship based off of your needs, her needs, and everything in between. And I'm it's not a thing of I feel like I gotta yell or whatever. But sometimes or I feel like because I think I've found that balance of how I need to express it. And because maybe at the time, like how my wife's a little emotional, so sometimes she's not seeing certain things in a certain way, and at this time it's like a lot going on. I'm like, hey, like right now, that ain't the time for it. We could talk about it later. But all right, if I handled it wrong, I know how to go back and say, look, I didn't handle this the right way, blah 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 blah. So I apologize for handling it the way, but this is why I did that. So I know how to navigate through that through my relationship now. There was a time where I just my first reaction would be to yell. But it's like, nah, like I didn't get the results I wanted out of that.
Yeah, I want to give you credit for continuing to improve. It sounds like there's been improvement throughout. And again, even speaking to the last point of I have to come back and apologize at some point, you'll be able to correct it so you don't have to say something and then come back and apologize. Right. So,
But that's a part. I think that's just a part of it, though. I mean, sometimes I don't go in it now. Kind of sometimes those things are gonna happen. I just feel like it's gonna happen, and sometimes you have to just be able to apologize if those things happen. So I guess the thing that I look at, I don't go in it just necessarily thinking about things in a perfect world. And maybe I'm taking what you're saying the wrong way, but I just think that those things are inevitable because we're human.
okay. Yeah, I think the part that you're saying as far as it's inevitable that we're gonna rub each other wrong. It's inevitable that we're not going to agree sometimes. It's inevitable that we're going to have disputes. What I was referring to is saying something that you don't mean, like you upset and you say the wrong thing, and then you got to come back and correct it later. So I was just speaking on that.
No, I get that, but the thing is I guess the thing was that I was saying is not that I didn't mean what I said. Maybe how I came across, how it came across, was the wrong way. But I would explain exactly what I meant because maybe we're missing one another, which what goes to what Chills is saying, where we're talking through one another and not in the relationship. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
No,
Like
I make
we're talking at one another. We're talking one another and I think that's normally what happens is like you don't I want you to hear what I'm saying and I don't care about what you're saying right now because what I'm saying is more important. What I'm saying and what I feel and how I think is more important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and there's
Mhm.
strategies to correct all of that, and I'm sure Chell's probably touch on that. But one of the things that I do in marital counseling is give people strategies so you don't have to go through that because that's typical communication challenges that people face across the board. I want you to hear me, and the other person wants to be heard, and we miss each other. Real quick, I wanted to touch on Viz real quick because he mentioned something that's valid where some people, based on their history of trauma, come and they bring that into the relationship, and then it leads to some toxic communication. He said something to the extent that some women kind of require that because they don't get it or they kind of yearn for that, and I think that's true. I've counseled a couple And it was an extremely toxic relationship. The guy got out of the relationship, but after that, he felt like other calm, peaceful relationships were boring. So he kind of started to sabotage the relationships because he wanted that drama because he was so used to it. So that speaks to that point. But what that means is that there's some healing that needs to be done. It's not acceptable.
Right. So I kind of got 2 points. One is what I call the tactical pause. A lot of the times women want to have the discussion right here, right now. And men are like, I don't want to talk about it. And me and my wife went through this. And we talked about it in therapy. And Dr. E helped us get to a point where if her and I were at odds, emotions were running high, and I wasn't ready to talk about it at that moment, continuing to talk about it at that moment was only going to make it worse. So he helped her understand that if he tells you that he's not ready to talk about it, then there's no point in having the conversation. That's where he, held her to be emotionally accountable in that space. Where he held me emotionally accountable was, you can't tell her that you don't want to talk right now and then come back later or not come back at all to have the conversation at all later on, because she's waiting for that conversation to happen. I say all of that to say, one of the things I do my best to implement just into my everyday life is the ability to pause, assess my emotions, label my emotions, and Viz, you hit on this, right? Which is the ability to be able to label them. Because once you label something, you have a certain amount of power over it, at least within your own being. And then you can decide, okay, I'm feeling irritated, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling resentful. Can I have a productive conversation while experiencing this? Or do I need to go be by myself, process this, get more so into my logical brain, right? And then come back and have the conversation. That way the lion doesn't necessarily have to roar, when he's having the conversation with his queen. But I wanted to hit on what Viz was talking about in terms of just the vocabulary. What does it look like for men to become to establish a better vocabulary in terms of emotions, as opposed to, I don't know, I'm just mad? How do we do that? We don't.
Well, for me, I've been studying theater, screenwriting, script writing, stuff like that. So, in understanding what and understanding what the emotion is and what it looks like, or even being able to put it down on paper, I feel like that added to the understanding of it truly, and then how to express it. For me personally, I think if men embraced art more, because of course art replicates life. If men, if we got into the space of where we are able to explore that more, I think that may help. If we made that the norm in our culture, I think that would help a lot.
Do men need better communication amongst other men? Like, does it need to be a conversation amongst men too, to be able to go talk to your boys and be like, yo, this is how I'm feeling, and not just, yo, she pissed me off, or the job is blowing me, or whatever the case may be, but to genuinely be able to go to your mans and be like, yo, I'm sad about some shit. And what does it look like to begin establishing friendships where you can genuinely go to your boy and be like, yo, this is how I'm feeling? Go ahead, Julie.
I think
I agree. I just want to make sure that at least one of them in the group got enough sense to give good advice. Because what if it's a bunch of men that lack the vocabulary and the understanding to be able to communicate, right? And I think that's where the mentorship comes in. And I know people don't like to talk about it, but I think going to therapy is healthy. And you can, bring that back to your crew and say, look, my therapist said this is what I got to do, or I heard this, or like have additional resources that are giving you more knowledge, not just a group of men sitting around lacking all the same amount of knowledge. Because then what?
Viz, you had something?
Yeah. To Julie's point, I understand what she's saying, but I think that goes back to the part of how men communicate differently from women. I'm sure the four of us fellas, we could have a conversation, even if our vocabulary wasn't to what we would expect or whatever. We could still sit and have a full-blown conversation of where we can express ourselves, we can get whatever off our chest and say it in the way that we know how to say it. And all three of us will be able to understand where this man is and how it is that he's feeling. So I get that to an extent, yes, but I think that each man will explore that at their own pace. And then also, most importantly, how comfortable with being vulnerable they are in sharing whatever it is and going deeper, as women love to say, to go deeper in what that feeling or emotion is.
Yeah, and I think in mass though, I think men now in mass are doing that though. I think a lot of men in mass are doing the work or and trying to express themselves to one another. Um, I would just speak for like a lot of the millennial guys around me. A lot of us are having these conversations and wanting to know more and expressing that to one another. Um, and I just think that at some point is just got sometimes at some point you just gotta want better. You just gotta want better and you gotta do better. Like I think a lot of what I see happening too though is regaining those the social skills to be able to do it because I think that's really is what's hurting us in general on both genders is not having the social skills to be able to make friends and talk to one another and express one another in a healthy way because most of the conversations we used to have these conversations amongst friends at an Applebee's or at a restaurant or at someone's house on a game night and most people aren't doing that anymore.
I think that's a trust issue. I think that just as you get older, you experience heartbreak, pain, loss. And I'm not just talking about death, like it's the loss of friendships, people betray you, you get cheated on, all of those things. You begin to lack trust in people in general. Like it's a lot harder to make genuine new friends in your late 30s and 40s than it is when you in school, right? It's just a lack of trust. You don't really know what this person's angle is. And so I'm not really giving you pushback, Quill. I'm just saying I don't necessarily think it's this. I think that the social problem comes from an internal lack of trust based on
But
previous
but Chels, it's
experiences.
it's affecting it's not just affecting people in their 30s and 40s. The people in their teens have trouble even knowing how to do that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a lot of that, in my opinion, comes from technology, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's because we now exist in a world where the primary means of social interaction is through a phone. So even if you have all of these kids in a school together, if they have access to their phones, it used to be if I was in history and you was in math, I ain't talk to you and you ain't talk to me, right? But if we boys, I don't have to talk to these other dudes in here. I can just be like, man, I'm about to hit my man Quell up, right? As for us, we have experienced both generations. If me and you grew up together, Quell, it was I had to come knock at your door and ask your mom, could you come out and play, right? And so we're already established into the ability to communicate socially. What I'm saying is the reason it gets difficult for us as we get older is not so much the social media. I'm theorizing that it's just that people have hurt you along the way. And so you begin to lack trust in new people. It's almost easier to make business relationships as you get older than it is to make genuine friendships as you get older. And a lot of the times it's not until, I'll just use Viz for example, because Viz, I've known Viz the least amount of time since we're here, right? So the only way me and Viz would end up meeting each other and really becoming genuine friends is almost always based on pain. If his wife left him and my wife left me, and we happen to be sitting at the bar at Applebee's drowning in our sorrows, that's the pathway to our friendship. It's through the pain. Whereas if when you're younger, it's a lot easier to connect with other people based on your joys.
Yeah,
I,
but
I,
even no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, I damn near got to give a little pushback on that. I get what you're saying. I think it's not necessarily the pain, but the mutual feeling that we share. Um, so in my 30s, I got heavy into weight training, and I made great friends with dudes I don't even, I never met them a day of my life, and we probably only hung out and kicked it in the gym. But it was genuine enough of a relationship, a friendship, to where I then began to frequent with them outside of the gym.
Right.
I think it's just wherever it is, whatever space that we meet in and we click in, then okay, I can see this growing. Even with like JR. So me and JR met years ago, but we reconnected and we started doing this more often, and now we go out, hang out, have a couple drinks, talk, whatever the case may be. We're able to build this friendship over something that we both enjoy to do. Now, however it is that you choose to progress that friendship, if we both go out with our old ladies, we go, top golf or whatever the case may be, and begin to further mature it. I think that's on the individual, but I think we as a culture, because of social media, 100% is being pushed more into an isolated mindset of where I'm gonna just stay in the house. Even if Julie and Denise are best friends and they used to talk on the phone every day, maybe now they just texting every day. They don't even want to get on the phone, type of deal. Or we just sharing reels with each other, you know. I, man, I'd have made great friends with niggas with people I've never even met, and all we do is just send reels to each other every day, and that's the basis of our friendship. So I think
Is there value? Is there value in that though, Viz? Or like, is there something lacking in that?
Chells, can you recalibrate real quick? I know we had someone Tay Rob come on, because the conversation has kind of morphed. I was following it. Julie had made a comment, then Viz, and then we kind of started going. So what is the point that we're discussing right this minute?
Basically, what we were talking about is men's abilities to connect with other men and discuss those emotions, right? And that's kind of how we ended up on the friendship aspect of it, and why it's so difficult. One of the aspects of it is why it's difficult to make friends as you get older as opposed to when you're younger. And that's how we ended up at that particular point. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I had a comment real quick on it, because Julie made a great point. And Viz, when she was saying, I hope these guys are in a group that where at least one of them know how to communicate, so that they can improve on their communication if that's the case. And Viz was saying, well, men kind of communicate different. If all of us sat and talked, we would get it. And I think that's true. However, it doesn't speak to emotional intelligence so much, just because we can relate and we can get each other right. What I see when it comes to the man and woman dynamic is when times get tough, that's when the man starts to break down in his communication. That's when the avoidance comes. That's when the shutdown comes. And as men, if we're in a group, we got to learn how to do that in a group too. So if things start to get heated between one or two of the guys, do they know how to work through that in that group? A lot of times that don't even happen in the group because we just having a good time, X, Y, Z, and sometimes the group ain't even talking about nothing let below the surface, right? But learning how to have those difficult conversations amongst men is something that does require, like Quail said, it requires men to say, I want to do better. I got to go do the self work. I got to want that.
What's up, Tay Rob?
Uh-oh. Hey.
Welcome to the panel. Why is Denise sideways? Why are you
Yeah.
sideways, Denise? Turn that joint back the other way. She's doing.
I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it.
All right, I'm just saying, you just did
I don't know what happened.
the 90-degree angle on me. Anyway, what's up, Tay Rob? How you feeling?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I know you always send me lives, but now I actually have you on a live.
Yeah.
See how that works? What do they say? God is good all the time.
All the time.
All right. So the topic is why men stay silent. And at the beginning, I asked everybody, why do you think it is that men have a difficult time expressing emotions? And you can hit it from, relationship standpoints with women or even with their boys or just in general. Why do you think that is?
I personally think that men struggle with communication and that type of thing because there's really no safe, soft place for you all to land. Even amongst each other, there's still boundaries and limits to what you can emotionally share, even amongst each other, before the line starts to break, so to speak. If you're with a emotionally mature group of men, then there's a bit further stretch. You can expand more emotionally. But if you're just with your regular group of friends, there are caps put on it where the men around you become uncomfortable and they start to kind of shut the person down. Oh man, you starting to sound soft. Oh man, you starting to sound ... And the message is, I'm uncomfortable with your vulnerability and I don't know how to steward it. So let's shut it down. And I think that is something that we see carried throughout a lot of the spaces that unfortunately men are in.
Okay, beautiful. Viz, I see you shaking your head. You had something?
Yeah, that's not true at all. Maybe when you're young, you might experience that where the homies would be like, "Oh man, you being soft or something," or "Man, get over it," type of deal. But I would say, especially in my adult years, I've never been around a man that I felt was a friend of mine, and they shut down what it was that I was feeling or expressing in that moment. I think when we continue to have that conversation, make that statement blindly, I think that actually leads to men being fearful of even attempting to do that, because of the expectation that that's going to be the response that they get. But I don't know. I can't speak for the other men on the panel, but in my experience, even when I was in the streets, when I was young, I never had that response from another man.
I would even say though, I think it's how we define friend. I think a lot of times normally what people are describing are normally acquaintances, but somebody that's a close friend that and really a friend to me, uh, they down for me. Like I could call them, and I could depend on them. But I think a lot of times, man, a lot of us don't really have genuine. I can name my genuine ride or die friends on my hand. And if I need them, it don't matter what amount of time has went by, I can express something to them without it being because I've been through hardships with that person. I've been through the trenches with them. So I can actually have those type of conversations. But I think a lot of times I think when those situations happen, it's normally like people who aren't necessarily friends, and a lot of us just don't know how to just let some people go. We just gotta have we're people hoarders, as if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's important to actively seek out people that you know are mature, right? That you can trust, that even just in general, just are where you want to be in life, right? If you're in your mid to late 20s and you're thinking about getting married, you need to go talk to some married guys, right? Because they've already been through what you're going to experience. And because of what they've been through, it's natural for them to give you advice to help you traverse it so that you don't experience the pains that they experienced, right? But it takes Dr. E's favorite word, it takes intentionality. You sometimes, if those people aren't in your life, you have to go seek those people out. Sometimes those people might not actually be people you can reach out to. It may be in books, right? It may be on the internet. It may be on social media. The same way we complain about the trash on social media is there's plenty of enlightening people and information on social media. So what it really comes down to, and Quell hit on this, it really becomes a shift within yourself, and then the external world begins to bend to you. Because we're out here. Viz, the first time I was on here, and I talked to Julie after the first time I was on here with Viz, and I said, yo, I like Viz. Viz, good people. I like his opinions. I like how he expresses himself. He a good guy, right? Dr. E, Quell. So, but it does take intentional action to go out and find these people. There's a lot of knuckleheads out here. Ain't that what you call them, Dr. E, knuckleheads?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything out here, man. If you go seek it, you're gonna find it. But like you say, we got to be selective about the people we pour our energy into, man. I'm really big on energy.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I wanted to ask Julie and Denise, in terms of dating, what is the point when you feel that it's okay for a man to open up to you emotionally, if before y'all get into a relationship, like an official exclusive relationship? Like if you want to date with a guy, maybe it's y'all's third, fourth, fifth date, and he's like expressing something emotional that you typically would think would make that a guy wouldn't want to open up. How do you traverse that as a woman?
Go ahead, Denise.
Give me an
Say Rob
example.
back because you can jump in.
Give me an example. Because
I don't know, like let's say you're on your third date with a guy, right? Y'all had the date planned already, so the date's going down. But earlier in the day, he had something happen that has him in his emotions, right? But he's a man of his word, so he don't want to break the date. You sitting at the dinner table, you in this nice restaurant, and this man pretty much start crying over whatever it is that happened. How do you traverse that? Because you're not obvious, it's easy for visits, any of our wives, to see us hurt and be like, oh, I'm gonna go in and lay him on my bosom and hug him and nurture him and give him a safe space. But how do you do that with somebody that's opening up when y'all aren't at that point yet?
I think I would, if it's a third date in, and I mean, we're still getting to know each other, I would treat that like I treat if it was a woman. Like I would just let the conversation unfold and see where it goes. I wouldn't pass judgment at that point. I would just have the conversation with him. I would listen to him.
Do you think it would be a turnoff?
I need to see what's going on. We need to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Look at Vin's eyebrows.
Yeah.
Because it could have been a traumatic day. Okay, I get it. Let's talk. Bang, get it out. But I gotta, it depends on what that conversation is about.
Okay. Say, Rob, I'm gonna let you go last on this one. Julie, what do you think about that? How do you think you could traverse that? And would it be, and just honestly, would it be a potential turnoff for you?
So that actually happened to me like a week in, and it just was a complete emotional dump. And I was like, you don't need a girlfriend, you need a therapist. Like, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know. I began to be emotionally tied to his trauma very, very early on. And I was confused. I would start crying. I'm like, why am I crying? Like, it didn't make sense. I didn't understand it, but it was very, very traumatic, what he had dealt with. And I kept asking myself, am I emotionally equipped? Do I have the capacity to traverse this with someone that I am literally just meeting, like 3-4 days in? And that kind of scared me a little bit, because I felt like if I said something incorrectly, he would probably have cracked. It was very traumatic, and I didn't know how to deal with that.
Okay. So, but before Tay Rob goes, do you think your responses be different if you were in a fully established relationship with this man? That would that just make it easier?
100%. It would be very different. Yeah, it would
Okay.
have been very different. Yeah.
Got you. Oh, got you. Okay, Tay Rob, what do you think?
Ah,
You muted. Yeah.
third date. The kind of work I do, my fear is that I'd probably turn into like take the therapeutic position. I don't want, and I wouldn't want to do that to somebody. I want to be able to listen authentically and be connected to the situation. But I probably would take a therapeutic position. I mean, if we're third date and you just there's something happening that you can't hold. I mean, it's pouring out at that point. So I'd probably distance myself from it. Walk through it with him and see where we can go and what's generating it. But I don't know if I would get attached. And would it change what I think of him? No. However, I might reconsider if we're ready to steward a relationship, a full-on connected relationship, because it sounds like you still got some stuff to work through first.
Tay Rob, it sounds like you telling me he ain't getting no fourth date.
He's not getting
you no practice, but you can't meet me at this restaurant next week.
Yep. Sorry.
I'm
Okay.
interested in what would be the difference of it being a third date versus you being in a relationship with him.
There's more investment.
Yeah, more investment, getting a better understanding of the history, and I think too, like over the course of time, you're able to determine whether the positive can outweigh the negative for it to continue to turn into and develop into a more serious relationship. But I just don't think people should be going, like, you don't know the other person's capacity to just dump on a stranger like that.
What if it was something that triggered it, and that's all that they could do?
I understand. I understand that.
I think this is a great example of why men feel uncomfortable being vulnerable, because we all three ladies just essentially said, if we're out on this third date, and I would hope if you done went out on the third date, y'all done have at least, a month, 2 months, whatever, however much time invested. The fact that maybe, Julie, you said something that nobody else has ever said to me before, and it just felt like I could be vulnerable here. And the waitress walks past with a red flower, a red daisy that's pinned to her chest. And my grandmother's favorite flower was a daisy. and I break down right here. You done cut me off just because I'm having this emotional moment, and I thought I can be vulnerable with you. The same thing that women are sitting here saying, that men not vulnerable, open up. But as soon as this man opens up, then it's like, oh no, this nigga got problems, bro. You need a therapist. You don't. It's like, damn, you done already shot him down.
Go ahead, Denise.
No, what I said was it depends on what is coming out. So with that, it's like, okay, let's have the conversation. I'm sorry, we can have that entire conversation. What Julie's talking about happened with her was that's beyond my pay grade. There's nothing that we can do here. You need professional help. So it depends on what the situation is. It truly depends.
I got a comment after Tay Rob go.
Go ahead, say Rob.
I almost feel like it's so unrealistic that I almost can't even really touch it, because we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. It's like you expect us to tolerate this, but if it was a woman that broke down, most men are gonna be like, she nuts, she's emotional, she can't manage herself. But if we're saying it about men, now all of a sudden we're getting this whole like, oh, he should be able to. Let me explain something to you, brother. If we sit together on the third date and you get the falling apart, I'm not. You didn't say the man was having a moment. You said the brother fell apart. That's way different than somebody having a moment. I can deal with a moment. I got the capacity for a moment. But come on now.
I ain't say falling apart.
No, you did.
So first, I do have to say that it is a double standard when it comes to this, and it would be way more acceptable for a woman to break down than for a man. It absolutely would be. But let's just say this, what I'm hearing from the ladies, it just speaks to the number one reason why relationships between Black men and Black women are failing, right? And it's not an indictment on men or women. It's we're coming with trauma. If you are descendant of slave and you here on America's soil, you're coming with trauma, and we don't know how to heal from our trauma, and we don't know how to help each other heal. And what I heard is self-preservation from the ladies. I heard protection. I want to protect my space, my energy. I don't want to deal with his trauma. I got my own stuff to deal with. But we don't know how to deal with our stuff and your stuff. But we got to learn that, because that's the thing that's keeping us not getting married. Is not knowing how to deal with our trauma and helping each other deal with it in the relationship. Because if I break down to you and I see you as the woman, man, you my future. And it ain't gonna take that long. It ain't gonna take that long, couple months.
Nah, dog, you ain't getting no fourth date, Daddy. Go on, kick rock.
You in your 40s?
You go see her practice. You go see her practice.
Vin says something very critical. By the time I go on a date with you, I'm already going to know you a little bit.
Yeah, right.
These people just jumping in dates and all that. I'm not doing that. So that means by the time we get to the first, second, third date, I'm stealing all the guts. You getting everything.
I guess you're saying that you should already be familiar with that person enough for where that should be able to happen.
Absolutely.
That should be able to happen in some way, shape, or form. But if you're already, to me, I think what I see with a lot of people too, though, it's like we're on guard like 24/7. Like we at war. Like when we're out with these people, where we're waiting for Dr. Jekyll, Mr. come out. And instead of kind of, if you're out with somebody and you already, I would assume that you like them. But there's something that attracts you to them. But if you're out with somebody and you're just going out with people for the sake of it, which is what's happening a lot of times, this is why a lot of this stuff is happening, because you're out with somebody you already don't want to be there in the first place. And then it's you looking for a reason to bail. You looking for a reason to get out of there.
But if you're looking for a reason to get out of there, why were you on the date anyway?
Tell me, they want a free meal.
Explain it to me, because that don't
They
make
want a
sense to me.
free meal.
I mean, but that's the cost of the free meal. If all you wanted was a free meal, you about to catch these kids on day. So call Tay Rob and Dr. E. Get some therapeutic tips for me. You can eat your steak and potatoes, and I could cry to you about my job.
Yeah, they play pirates.
The play pirates. Is that what they call them?
Play pirates. Hey, but even to Tay Rob's point, though, I think even if if the shoe was on the other foot and we're on the third date and this young lady has a moment, I'm not my me as a grown ass man, I'm not gonna be like, oh man, there's something wrong with this chick. I'm never gonna go on this date again. It's gonna be, I'm gonna be more intrigued, or like what is happening, because is this just something that's happening in this moment, or does she really have a problem? And even in that, if I am attracted to her, if I do see a future with her, then maybe I want to walk with her through this, because regardless, as much as someone may say that they're healed, we all have some type of trauma that we dealing with. We all have some type of baggage. So regardless of what it is that they're experiencing, and I forget what the quote that Bob Marley shared, but if you're willing to go through this with this person, then hey, let's make it happen. But I think just to shut somebody out instantly because they're having a moment, especially for a man, especially in public, that's already something that we started the conversation out with, of where men don't feel comfortable being vulnerable. So you should almost take it as a badge of honor that this man is even open and willing to open up to you. So it's really, in my opinion, from the expressions of the women, that's almost a slap in the face, in my opinion, to men.
I think you're leaving out the fact that we're not clarifying the vetting process. First of all, if we're talking to someone, we're getting to know somebody. I'm not on a third date with somebody I don't know yet. If we've made it the third date, we have done a lot of the work. We have made a lot of. I have 6 brothers. I have raised 8 sons. I'm not talking from a position where I'm clueless about what men go through. This is the truth of the matter. We are existing in a space where there is this war between men and women, and oftentimes the target is to become the kind of man that a woman might like, so you can be the man that can take advantage. So if we're on a third date, we have done a lot of work. In my world, we've done a lot of work, because I don't want to be the person that's sitting with somebody that has an emotional, I don't want to say an emotional break, but has an emotional moment where I can be beneficial, where I can be helpful. And because I don't know you or your motives, I have to put up the boundaries and say, you know what, it can play out, but to protect myself, I'm fairly sure this is it. So let's clarify something here. There's a vetting process that nowadays you see a lot of women leaning more into. And a third date, I mean, you've earned a third date. Of course, I'm not going to walk out on somebody who's crying, that I've spent hours and put countless effort into getting to know before I even sat down with him. That's different.
But I would even say in mass though, that there I don't see a lot. It's a lot of women that aren't handling in that way. When they're handling it, you get called all sorts of names, and you a punk, and all like what are you crying for? Like like in mass, women aren't handling in it in that way. Like so, I think that's where I I guess I always kind of try to get the lens to look at, because I mean even like in my day to day, just going around and speaking to people in general, it's such an unpleasantness that comes with it. If that makes sense, like I'm tying it in because it's just like there's some women where it's just like if you speak to them, it's 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 a pleasantness that come with them. Even if it's not like they're inviting any type of bad behavior, or anything, or being vulnerable, but it's just like it's just something about how they carry themselves and what they do and how they say things. And I've experienced it on both ends, so I think that's where Viz is kind of talking on too, where it's like, yeah, it might be the I'm sorry, um what do you go by? I don't we spoke before, but I don't remember.
You
What you
talking
go
about
by,
Tay-Rob?
Tay? Okay, Tay Rob. So I think that's where you kind of have to look at it, and I'm pretty certain you know that, but I guess that's where I kind of like harp on it on in that manner or whatever.
Okay, so that I just wrote something down, and what I was thinking is, based on the lady's responses to that question, um, because we established that if you're fully in the relationship, then you're a lot more comfortable with that man being emotionally vulnerable. If you're still in the dating or the early stages of getting to know one another, that's where the discomfort comes, and I kind of got to put up a boundary and begin to protect myself. Does that put men in the position of having to show up as emotionally stronger than they actually are in order to get you to the point where you will be in the relationship with him, where he can later on show you who he is emotionally? So I guess what I'm asking is, are women asking for the mask?
I think everybody's the representative first. I don't think you can call it masking if you want, but I think that the intention is to put your best foot forward. You want to present yourself in a particular type of way, but most people show up as the representative first. Most
Yeah,
people do.
right, right.
I mean,
I understand that, Tay Rob. I understand that most people show up as their representative, but what I guess what I'm asking is are they showing up as the representative? Because if they showed up as their genuine selves, they're more likely to be rejected.
but that's a personal issue. We are the sum of what we experience. So if you've experienced that and you feel like whatever has brought you to that place, that I'm going to be this before I'm that. There are 8 billion people on this planet. We're talking, and a lot of what I hear is blanketed statements. I hear women and men, and it's like, well, you've never met all of them. And you chances are you never will. So it's individual case by case basis oftentimes, and dealing with individuals versus grouping people into these categories where you expect certain things. And I'm like, if a guy sat down and we're good, we're cool, whatever, we're getting to know, chances are I probably would entertain it and even be kind and genuinely affectionate to it. But just some random guy, I mean, depends on how he shows up, what he's got going on, and what triggered it. Like what triggered that?
I would be more interested in how he is actively working on it and what he is active, like what his lifestyle is like, that shows me that, if he got this going on, he's working on a solution, not just the repeated trauma dumping because that's just your way of life.
Mm.
So exactly, right? So for me, I do tend to move a little slower because I want to see. I'm all right experiencing your tears or whatever in this moment, but if it's consistent and there's no course of action, that's where I'm concerned, because now you're showing me that you're aware that you have this trauma, that you are aware of how it makes you feel, that you're okay with dumping it onto someone, but there is no solution.
Right. Dr. E and Tay Rob, I have a question for y'all too, because Julie's kind of hitting on it. What's the best way to approach someone who's in denial? Not someone, we're talking about men. What's the best way to approach a man who's in denial about the fact that he needs help? How do we traverse that?
You want to go first, Tay Rob? Ladies first.
Sure. Well, I think it begins with taking people on individual case by case basis and not lumping them into spaces where you just assume that they're acting according to the masses. And it's discernment. It's discernment. It's presence over performance. It's really meeting the person where they're at. It's being genuine about learning who you are. You never know what a person, like Some people don't know my history, my story. Something could be said in a moment's notice, and it triggers the fact that I lost my daughter. Well, you'd have to know that story. You'd have to have gotten deep into that space where it doesn't shock and surprise you, where you're like, oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I think that we have to be gentle. We have to listen deeply. We have to be willing to say, I'm me, you're you, and I'm not judging you on external forces predicated on other people's opinion about what you should be or what I should be in that space.
Got you. Dr. E, you got something on that?
Yeah, I would say two things. Is that working with people, you know, who go through this on a regular basis. First thing you got to do is lead by example. You know, a lot of times people are quick to tell another person, you know, hey, you need to work on this, or this is what you need to do, or did you know this, or did you know that? But they're not working, right? So I got one couple in particular where I've been meeting with the husband now, met with both of them before, and he's trying to get her to do the work. He's doing the work, but she's pointing out all the stuff that he need to do and ain't trying to do nothing for herself. So the quickest way to help somebody who's in denial is to show that you're willing to do what you're asking them to do, right? So if you're coming from that space, that's going to help them to see, okay, you know what, maybe I could do something for me, right? But then the other thing is to set boundaries. So I'm not going to accept it forever, you know. So at some point, it's got to be unacceptable, right? So, but what people do is they continue to accept things and then be mad about it. Well, again, if you're not going to do nothing about it, then nothing's going to change. So it's, hey, I'm leading by example. This is what needs to happen. This is what I'm seeing, you know, and I'm like Tay Rob said, I'm being gentle about it. But meanwhile, the rope is going to run out. So that's it.
Yeah, and I would say too though, I think people have to learn to how to acknowledge measurable progress. Measurable progress. Like it's got to be something that I can see. Because it can't just be potential. Like I think a lot of times people get trapped in potential, but it can't just be potential. It has to be something where I'm like, I see this, I see a seed, I see this plant there, and it's growing, and there's something there, and I'm willing to stick through it. Um, I can use my own personal relationship where I can remember like when my wife met me, she said she saw something in me that made her want to be here, like that I was going somewhere and that wherever I was going, she wanted to be there. That she saw something special there, where it's like, okay, this guy's going somewhere. He has this going on. He's not all the way there, but what's there and where he's headed, like it attracts me there. So I think the thing is that a lot of people get trapped in either potential or the illusions that people give us. Like normally, sometimes things ain't even potential. It's an illusion that and fronts that people put on that wind up they go nowhere, where it's like people have gotten good at putting the faking the funk and putting the act on, and it goes back to what Tay Rob said about having discernment, knowing how to point those things out, because I think we all talk in generalizations, but I think the biggest thing is there are I always think that there, like, even in these conversations we're talking in baselines. Like there are baselines to what a healthy relationship looks like, but it looks different for each one of us because each one of us have different things that make our relation and make that as people that we want, you know what I'm saying, that we need certain lifestyles, um, whatever it is. We don't like the same things. We don't live the same way. So I think it all depends on what you need and your needs and your wants within who you are.
Mm. Say, Rob, you said something and it made a question pop in my mind. You said meet them where they are, right? And that leads me to a question. Do we, as a society, use men as a means to an end too much? To a point where the individuals are getting overlooked to get to the outcome it is that we desire.
You know, I love that you said that, because when we think about meeting people where they are, we have to, when we show up, we have to not over function. If you're going to be there for somebody, don't over function. Don't become their therapist. Don't try to fix them. Don't become the savior, but emotionally support them in a way that allows them to come to their own solution. Because oftentimes people don't stay with the solutions that other people create for them. They stay with the solutions they find for themselves. And when you meet people where they are, we have to learn how to not overfunction when we get to that space. Let them lead. They know their situations and circumstances best, but also be discerning enough that you don't take on their trauma. So I can be in this space and hear you and absolutely support you and be an emotional accountability person for you. But at the end of the day, this is not my trauma, and you have to. I love what Dr. E said about being willing to do the work. You can't ask for something you're not willing to give, and you shouldn't be for somebody something that you can't be for yourself.
Viz, can I get your thoughts on that? On whether or not we, even just as a society in general, use men as a means to an end, as opposed to seeing us for the individuals that we are. Viz, you there?
He watching YouTube.
You're on another channel. So he's trying to get his opinion. So I'll answer my own question, and I'll say yes. And I'm not saying that we don't do that to women, right? I'm not a woman, so I don't know how women feel about being used as a means to an end. But I do know that we use men as a means to an end. We use men as a means to an end for money, to build buildings, to go pick up the dead bodies, right? I don't want to see it. Can someone please just go get it done, right? Women see men as a means to an end because the woman wants to be married. I want to be a wife, right? And there's not a full-fledged thought or consideration that this man actually has to be a husband, and that's going to be his experience outside of you just getting to be a wife, right? Our kids are really good at this. Our kids are really good at seeing us simply as the protectors and providers for their lives. It's not until kids get older that they look back at their parents and say, wow. Now, I saw this real earlier, and I forget exactly what it said, but it was basically saying that at some point I looked at my father and I realized that this was his first time living a life too. And I was like, wow, that is so powerful, to get to. And some people maybe don't even get to that point until they're in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, where they look at their parents and are like, they held so much resentment for how imperfect their parents were, or how many times their parents told them no. And then if you're lucky, it dawns on you one day that my father is just a man. As divine as he is, he's also just a man. He made mistakes. He was doing the best that he could. I look back at my father and I'm like, wow, my father was in his 20s, right? And in my mind, he was like a demigod or something. But now that I'm 42, I'm like, yo, that dude, they had no idea. He had no idea what he was doing. Not to the degree that I thought he did as a child. And so, it's cool because just yesterday, he lives 4 hours away, but I had him on FaceTime while I was changing my wife's alternator. And it felt good for him to just be there for me and for me to see him like, this is my dad, the man, not the archetype that I thought he should have been as I was growing up as a child. So, but Viz, I wanted your opinion on that, on how we as a society in general use men as a means to an end, as opposed to actually seeing the individual and meeting him where he is.
Say it one more time.
I want your opinion on how we as society see or use men as a means to an end, as opposed to meeting that man, that individual, where he is, or as he truly is, just as an individual, as a person.
Yeah. I think in that I think in that situation it's a beautiful dance of the duality of the two. I think that is important for young boys to have that image of their father of being a demigod, but also being able to see um, that they are just a man. I think maybe more so along the lines of Hercules, right? Hercules was he was a demigod, but he was still a man going through human mortal stuff. So I think it's crucial for that to definitely play a part. I'm also interested if when that realization occurs, is that more important of where you can see your father as just being a man, um, depending on what stage of life. Maybe not so much between your early teenage years, maybe 18, but between 18 and 21, where it's like, okay, or maybe even younger, maybe at 16 or something like that. But I think that is to have that balance, that healthy balance. It allows for that young man to have something to look up to and inspire to, and for women and for the daughters, right? So now the daughter now has an idea of what type of archetype she would want or expect out of the man that she allows to court her, or that she's with, or date, or marry, or even marry. So I think that it's important to have a healthy balance of the two.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
I was listening to I quote Jordan Peterson a lot, but he was talking about he said, do you need the death of that relationship because you realize that they don't know any better than you, but you need the death of it because it inevitably is the catalyst for your ascension as a man. It's pivotal because you can't grow if that relationship doesn't die, if that side of your father doesn't die, you'll never grow as a person because you'll always look for someone to have the answer, and you have to realize they don't know any better than you, and you have to go on the adventure of your life to figure out what you think about it and how you feel about those things.
You talking about the demigod has to die, like the image of the demigod, the
Yeah,
archetype in your
yeah.
mind, in
The
order for you to.
superhero, the Superman has to die.
Right, right, right. I agree. I agree. We got a new member on the panel. I don't want to mess your name up. So welcome to the panel. How you feeling
Hi,
tonight?
I'm good. How are you guys tonight?
Good, good. How you say your
Good.
name?
Shan Monet.
Shan Monet. Okay, got you. So
Eh,
we're having. I assume you've been watching and listening in. Is anything specifically you wanted
I
to
have
jump in
not.
on?
I just got here.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So we're having a conversation about why men stay silent emotionally, and I've asked everybody who's been on the panel, what's your perspective on why men are so quiet or silent about their emotions?
I think that's. Are you asking me that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just your opinion, your observation based on your experiences. Your observations.
Well, I can assume. I think that that's probably a question for the men, because only they will know why they. But I don't think society has necessarily made it a safe place for men to be emotional, right? I do see that men are emotional. I think that they just show their emotions in a different way than others. But I I guess I have to ask, what do you mean by emotions? Because I do think that men are emotional. Even if you're talking about, this is not most men, but aggression is a form of emotion. shutting down is an emotion. These are all emotions. They just show it very different. They come off different than women do. Obviously, you don't want a man to display emotion the way a woman does. Men have their own way of showing emotion, but anyway it goes, it's still emotion.
So earlier, and so I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. I have no pushback on certain emotions being acceptable. On every Sunday, men get emotional when their team wins or loses, and everybody's okay with it, right? There's a certain amount of aggression that comes from emotion that people are okay with, depending on where you stand on who should have beat up who or whatever the case may be. That being said, it is difficult for men to show certain emotions publicly, and it is difficult for him to show the intensity of those emotions publicly. And so the question is really geared to the question is broad, but it's really targeted in on those specific emotions that we kind of just know it makes people uncomfortable. If you see a woman just sitting on a park bench crying, people are more likely to be like, "Oh, what's going on? Are you okay?" If you see a guy, you like, is he angry or should I talk to him? There's a lot more hesitancy. You know what I mean? So why do you think that is? Do you think that's just because that's just how we raise men to be in society from childhood on?
Yeah, I think that's just how we. So I think that it's just how we look at the stronger person, right? Like the person. It's almost like even if I have take men out of it, if I have a child, I try not to show emotion in front of my kid, right? Because I just don't want to do that because that person relies on me. And I think it trickles because men do that to other people because people rely on them. It's like a stepping. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say why men don't. I've seen men be emotional. It's just like I said, it just looks a little different. I've seen men they have like that, and they're like, and they, and I don't think people have a problem with that, especially if there's a reason behind it. If a man breaks down or he's tearing because it's a funeral, nobody has a problem with that. People wanting to get it out. I think it's more of an internal thing. I think they don't want to do certain things in front of people, but I don't think that we have a problem with it. Now, if you're just crying like a little, if it's a situation where you like just being I don't know, I don't want to be inappropriate, that's totally different. It's like, are you crying? Oh, what? Because you got those kind of men too. And so that's when it gets a little like, what, brother, what are you crying for? Like, because you don't want to hold that bar. Like, when it gets to like when you're crying over stuff that you really shouldn't be crying over, like emotional over things that you shouldn't be. But for natural emotion, like somebody passes away, those types of things, I don't think people have a problem with that at all.
Well, I think death is definitely the one that every man gets a pass on. Nobody's.
And even when people, have you seen the reels now when the guys are like, my kid just went to kindergarten. That's kind of sexy. Like you love your child so much and you see a man get emotional because his child is going to kindergarten. You're like, oh, I don't think people have a problem with that. I think that men in their mind think we have a problem with that, but it's actually it's attractive in a certain kind of way. It's like he has so much love for his child that he's emotional that she's got to go and leave daddy for a second.
Dr. E, what you got?
A couple of things. One, we're going to have to come back and touch on, so I heard a couple people use the term strength and weaknesses when it came down to self-expression. But we'll table that. But I wanted to touch on this discussion here because it sounds like there's almost a category of self-expression that's acceptable, where if it's I'm quote unquote crying because of death or I'm crying because of something major, that's cool. But if it's something else, And so what I want to do is change the word, the perception of crying, because crying don't have to be tears. So think about this. So I just going to scenarios where I got a couple where the wife enjoys the ratchet TV. She just want to come home and she just want to watch all the ratchetness. I want to watch all the Real Housewives and all this other stuff. And the guy wants to go to sleep. he don't want to hear that. He don't want to hear none of that while he's trying to go to sleep. So he's complaining. So I want you to change cry to complaint. How do y'all do with dealing with complaints? Because we're categorizing certain things a different way. Whereas when we're talking about self-expression for men, it's them being able to express how they feel, period. And sometimes that comes off like a complaint. And I heard sassy. And that's what women want to come back with. Why he so sassy? He always got something to say. I'm hearing this all the time. And all he's doing is saying, yo, can you just turn off the ratchet TV when I'm trying to go to sleep? So speak on complaints. Throw out cry. Because we you know. How you do with complaints, ladies?
He asking y'all.
Oh, everybody shut down?
I don't think
that hit the button.
No, I don't think that men nor women like people who just complain all the time. You know, I would assume that a man doesn't want a woman who's always complaining.
I'm glad you said that because it's acceptable for women to complain.
Is it really though?
Yes. That's the culture. Women get to complain all day. You get to come home and just complain about your day, complain about everybody at the office, complain about what you're feeling, but let that guy complain. And now it's like, why he complaining so much?
And Shan, I mean, I've even heard people like expressing, like men expressing about, okay, we don't like weave or we don't like certain things that you guys might wear. And it's like I've heard women be like, oh, why you worrying about a woman's hair? Why you doing this? What's wrong with him? Like it's like it be comments like that, and it's like, dang, if I'm just expressing to you what's appealing to me, like, so what's wrong with me doing that? And it's like the slightest thing, the slightest sign of criticism is I think is what Doctor is getting at. The slightest sign of criticism is looked at as sassy, is looked at as feminine, is looked at as you a crybaby.
I think that's so. I think that's a people thing. I don't think that that's necessarily female or men, right? I think that when people feel insulted because maybe they fit the narrative that what you're talking about, people get offended. They take it personally. I think that that's a man and female thing. I think, but it's a human thing, right? You know, we talk about short guys. It lets you be a short guy. He got something to say, right? Or when people talk about educational level, oh, that's a nerve that people hit, right? So whenever people talk about somebody and they feel it's a personal attack because they fit that, right? You're going to, people talk, I'm a single mom. People talk about single moms. I don't let it get to me, but I know people who do.
Well, that may be true, but what I'm saying is that those comments that and what Dr. E's talking about comes across differently when it's expressed to men.
Yeah.
It comes across in a totally different way than how it would as if it was directed towards women.
Give me an example.
So just the whole thing of being set, you know, me, if I'm expressing, I don't feel like you should wear weave. I don't like weave. I don't like speaking on your aesthetics. Then if a man is expressing that, then and in mass, not saying that, not expressing it towards you as you in particular as a woman, but women in mass do certain things. So I guess just take you and women who behave like you out of it, and think about the overall behavior that happens in mass. I guess that's what was expressed, because you may not, it may not affect you, and just, like you said, you're a single mom, so there's certain things that you, in certain ways that you may not act, that single moms in general may behave that don't apply to you. Does that make sense?
Yes, I do. I get that. But I think that when you're talking, it depends on how you're receiving the information. I think that sometimes when we say things online, you're opening up for people, everybody to comment. And the people who comment are the people who disagree with you. Think about all the comments that you didn't get, and they're like, I don't care. You know, That doesn't relate to me. People don't comment on things that don't relate. It's not, they're not bothered by it. So you're just seeing the comments of the people who are bothered by it. So it makes it look like there's this group of people, and it's really just a small percentage of people.
But it actually, what I'm saying, it's actually spilled out where I've seen this in real life, not just me just looking at on the internet and somebody just saying things on the internet, but this happened in personal conversations. I might be out and about and I might have seen certain things in a certain way.
So let me get this straight. So you go out into the real world and you say out of your mouth in front of people what you don't like about them.
So let me help steer it a little bit, because
the reason why I say that, because he said this happened in real life, that means he has had to have said something for people to.
So we do have conversations. Like there have been times where if I have a conversation in general with somebody about certain things that might come up. Like it doesn't have where I'm just going out looking. Let me go find somebody and comment on their weave and just tell them about something. That's what I'm
so you're saying like I'm on a date with somebody and I say, I like a more natural look, and you just say that's your preference on a date.
Or you could be out with, or you could be around some friends and this could have came up, or even I've had this conversation at a job where in general something just came up at my job where certain things have been expressed.
So let me just, because this came from a comment that I made, so I want to frame it a little different to help kind of steer the conversation. Because what I was talking about was not necessarily a complaint about, man, I don't really like them long lashes you become wanting to wear. Like it wasn't like that, right? So it was like there's an acceptable culture says it's okay for women to express, hey, there's something wrong with this. Women don't have no problem coming in and saying, hey, look, I don't like how the house is kept, or hey, this needs to be fixed, or this needs to be fixed. Men have historically just suppressed those things and don't really express it. They just deal with it. The culture of tolerance and having to tolerate and and having to just deal and look, just suck it up, that goes beyond pain and crying. It goes to everything about a relationship. When it comes to man and women, is you just don't get to complain about what's going on in the situation. You got to suck it up. And so now when men are getting more comfortable with pointing things out and saying, I don't like that, that's coming off as sassy and unacceptable. And I'm just seeing that more often.
Even for me,
I'll come back. You let somebody else speak.
Even for women to say that men don't open up, men don't speak about what they feel and what they feel, and they don't express themselves. And to Quayle's point, as soon as they do, then they sassy, they soft, they're all of these other names, and it's like, well, damn, which one do you want? Do you not want me to say anything, or do you want me to say anything? Which again goes back to the original question or topic, why men don't open up. Me personally, growing up, and I'm glad Dr. E worded it in the way that he did, because whenever I did speak up about something, I felt like I was complaining. And I hate complaining. I don't want to complain. Shan, you leaving your socks everywhere. Goddamn. It annoys me. I'm only using that because I leave my socks everywhere. You leave your socks everywhere.
You projecting.
Can you please stop? You know what I'm saying? And okay, cool. You put them away and it continues to happen. Now I'm not gonna say shit. Cause it's like, damn, I done asked you to put your socks up. I done bought a basket, put it right by the couch so that you can put your socks in there. You still not doing it. Now I'm not gonna say nothing about it, because now I feel like I'm complaining. And then of course, as I know now, that's when the resentment comes in. That's when all of the other emotions begin to eat away at the relationship. So I think that is men are conflicted in what it is that women are saying. Because I think women have this thought that men aren't listening to what they're saying, but we are listening to what you're saying. But it's when we do what we hear that you want us to do, that's not what you want us to do. So it's like, damn, what the fuck we supposed to do now? So it goes back to the communication barrier too.
So if I could jump in right quick, Shan said something that I thought was really powerful though. She said she basically talked about how it being that experience being an internal thing, right? And it's not absolutely internal because it is based on external circumstances and what other people think or how women respond or how society responds. I think it also comes down to a boundary issue, and I'm specifically thinking about Viz's issue with Shane leaving her socks all around the house. I read this really good book on boundaries, and I can't remember the name of it, but in that book, she explains the process of enforcing boundaries. And what she says is first off, you have to be willing to communicate the boundary. And then you have to be willing to enforce the boundary, right? It sounds really simple, but it can be emotionally draining. The difficult part about it is that just because you establish and enforce a boundary one time doesn't mean that the other person's behavior is going to change the first time. So Viz, you would have to be willing to face your internal discomfort and address the sock issue potentially multiple times before Shane stops leaving her dirty socks laying around. I think that men for so long have yielded to women's emotions that even once we get up the courage to do it one time, we're like, well, look, I did it one time and that shit ain't work out all that great. So I'm gonna just let it ride. But like I said, Shane's point of it being internal is really important because if you want to break through, you have to be willing to go through the fear, doubt, and uncertainty and tell that woman, hey, listen, remember I told you last week about the socks? Come on now, we got to be able to pick them up and put them in the basket. Go ahead, Dr.
I think that's a good segue into my last point before I jump. Because I heard the word weakness and I heard the word strength a couple of times, just as it pertains to communication and men not showing up or showing up. And it was kind of perceived as a weakness to cry and show your emotions. But the true strength is in being able to communicate in your emotion, right? Communicate through the emotion. So it's in the not shutting down. And that's the number one thing that I see is guys just shut down and avoid. And the strength is in not in avoidance. It's not in blowing up. It's not in breaking something up. And I'm mad and I'm just pissed off. It's in talking through the emotion. Don't shut down. So that's my message for the brothers. If you want to show courage, if you want to be brave, you got to talk. And the thing that stops brothers, I think, a lot is they don't feel like they can accurately articulate what they feel. They don't feel like they can accurately get the message across. So once they try and they say, I'm mad and this is what I'm mad about, and a lot of times women want to, quote unquote, go deeper. And the guy doesn't know how to go deeper. So he keeps saying the same thing. And so that shuts him down because he just doesn't know how to articulate it. So brothers, if you don't know how to put the words together to get it right, several people on the call said, seek the help. Go to your I Am Chells X, go to your Tay Robs, go to your Dr. E's, go to your Viz and Shan and whoever else, Quell, but whoever's qualified to give you that assistance and get the help you need, because it's absolutely mandatory that you be able to learn how to express yourself. Ladies, learn how to accept when the brothers express themselves, because a lot of times, going to Viz's points, the ladies say, I want this, I want this, I want this. And when it happens, they don't know how to deal with it. So with that being said, man, we got to work through our trauma and we got to help each other work through it. Otherwise, Black family, man, we on the decline. So it's mandatory. It's
Yeah.
mandatory.
Hey, I do want to share one thing. So with the deeper part, so and this is just for me, and this was something that I spoke about with my counselor. Um, but for me, some things just aren't that deep. I personally I love ice cream, preferably vanilla ice cream. Don't ask me what it is I like about vanilla ice cream. I don't know. I just know that I like vanilla ice cream because it's going to be consistent. It's going to be the same every time, be it vanilla bean, be it French vanilla, or regular or homemade vanilla. I know that it's going to be this exact thing each time that I eat it, and that's it. I don't care about nothing else. I don't care if it's creamy or if it's thick or if it melted and then froze back again. To me it don't matter. I enjoy it because I just simply enjoy it. Everything else in life is so detailed and so in depth. I think when we lose sight of the simple things in life and we appreciate the fact, I just like vanilla ice cream, instead of, well, why do you like it? I don't know why I like it. I just know that I like it. Do I have to know why I like it aside from me knowing that I like it? I think that then overcomplicates something that's simple, in which we should take that approach in life and with some things instead of overcomplicating it.
Are you talking about that in terms of overcomplicating the way men express their emotions or just emotions in general?
Just in the communication, right?
Yeah.
Because in that case, just using that example for what a woman would say of going deeper, or even to Dr. E's point of understanding of how to go to dig deeper into why you enjoy this vanilla ice cream. To me, it's, why do I need to understand why I enjoy this ice cream? I can dig deeper into whatever else. I'm open to exploring that. But maybe I don't want to explore this just because I just like vanilla ice cream.
You saying it's just that simple?
It's
That's just
just
how
that
I feel.
simple. That's
Yeah.
just how I feel.
Viz, I'm trying to get off and you pulling me back in, bro.
Hey, let's
I gotta make a
have a
comment
talk,
on this,
man.
and then I'm gonna get
Let's
off.
have a talk.
So what I'm gonna do is issue a challenge, because I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think you're making a great point, and that's the thing that irritates a lot of women, because they want the man to expound on it. They want him to say why he likes the vanilla, and it's just that simple for the guy. He like, yo, I said I like vanilla. Why do I gotta keep saying that? But that's a great practice to get you to expound when it really, really matters. Because if you get accustomed to just shutting it down because you're saying I said enough, then that'll translate into other conversations. But you want to practice going deeper. So if you want to say, you know what, in the back of my mind, it's just vanilla. But to get the practice, go into the vanilla bean. You know what? The vanilla bean does give me a different flavor than the homemade, because I'm with you. I knew exactly what you were saying when you said all three flavors. So I know it's a difference because those are my joints. So you can go deeper, but you got to choose to do that. But I want to issue that challenge because a lot of brothers feel the same exact way, where they say, I said enough. Like, why you keep going? And they get pissed off. I got one couple, and this dude is a boxer, and he ready to box his wife because she wants him to go deeper. Practice it. Practice. All right, I'm running before you say something else. Bye.
Appreciate you, Doc.
And I wanted to say too, though, I think sometimes I agree with Biz too, though, because it's like men want to be heard. And like sometimes, like, I don't like, I asked for instance to my wife, like, just hear, do you hear what I'm saying? Are you listening to me? Like, it sometimes it's just like, I don't need anything. I just need you to listen to me, or like, I remember I was listening, like I said, I'll quote Jordan Peterson again. He was like, it's not a thing of, and I think you touched on the earlier, Chills, about sometimes fixing somebody's problem instead of just being there and being
Mm-hmm.
aware and just being present, um instead of trying to just do something about it. And it's like, it's sometimes where, look, at the time, man, look, I don't know how I feel about it. I just need you, I need to take a beat right now. I just need to chill out right now. I just need to unwind, and I need to figure out how, what I actually do think about it. You know, man, maybe this ain't the best time to talk about it. And sometimes it is. But I just think, like, sometimes you just gotta let, just cool off for a minute and just give me a minute. Cause I remember one day it was like, it was a lot going on in my life at the time. I think like it was some stuff that was behind, and I was dealing with a lot at work. And, you know, me and our wife was having an argument, and I'm sitting there like, yo, I just need a minute. And she was going through something at the time. I don't know exactly what it was, but then it was just, I got bombarded and I just lashed out because I'm like, yo, just give me a minute. I don't know what I think right now. I don't know how I feel. I just need a minute to figure this out. Just give me a minute. And I think sometimes, like, if I think if you actually just hear what the person is, hear what they're saying, I think sometimes those moments of lashing out and all of that stuff wouldn't happen if you could just let me not project what I think might be wrong. Let me actually hear what they're saying.
I'm with you, Quill. You're right. I was talking about it earlier. Emotions don't come with instruction manuals, right? And we don't always control them. They're naturally occurring energies within the body, right? And whenever you rush someone to put into words something that is not built upon words or doesn't originate from words per se, it's going to be difficult for that person to tell you what it is they're thinking because they're not operating in their logical or thinking brain, right? So when Viz says, because I like vanilla ice cream, right? That's just what it is for him at that point in time. We're all mirrors to one another. And so marriage is one of the most beautiful mirrors that you can have or experience, right? And so what in Viz's example of the vanilla ice cream, what I would say is occurring is she's reflecting to him that he can go deeper, right? But what he's reflecting to her is that you can be better at asking questions to help me go deeper, as opposed to just saying, "What are you feeling?" The deeper she can go into her own emotions, she can begin leading him into his emotions. But typically, if people don't like what they're seeing in the mirror, they avoid the mirror, right? And so if you can go through life and kind of realize, and that's what the whole external world is for all of us. It's showing us who we are, and we're showing it who it is. And emotions aren't to be rushed, right? They're to be processed, right? Like I said, and I'm not saying we don't do this to women because I'm sure we do, but I know as a man, sometimes I'll be like, damn, what am I, just a means to an end? Like, maybe I'm not saying what I did was logical. I'm not saying what I did was right. But do you care how I feel, or what I think, I ain't even trying to argue the point that my perspective is right. This just how I feel. I like vanilla ice cream, Viz, right? And that's just how it is. I don't know why. I haven't figured it out yet. So
Hey, but
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No. If you were gonna respond or say something, go ahead. Because I was gonna put out one more question, and I'm gonna let everybody close anything they want to say in closing, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, I think again, right? I know how to dig deeper in the thought or the feeling of whatever it is, right? I I know why I enjoy driving this specific type of car, because of X, Y, and Z. In my career, I'm forced to pay attention to the details. In writing, I'm forced to have to pay attention to the details. So I'm paying attention to the details, and all of these things stretched across life. But this one thing, just let me have this one thing. This ice cream, this vanilla ice cream. I don't want to think about. Yes, it's creamy, the texture, the color, right? All I get it, all of that shit. The way that it sit on my taste buds, what it does to my subconscious, my emotional state. I'm now happy. I'm feeling good. I get all of that. I don't care about that. I just enjoy the fact that this vanilla ice cream is good. I love if it's Haagen Dazs vanilla ice cream. Oh, I'm definitely in there. But why can't I just have it be that? Damn, I just like vanilla ice cream instead of making it complicated.
Got you. Got you. The last question I have for y'all tonight, and we can keep it short. I just want y'all's opinion on parents in general and the willingness to apologize to your kids. Right. And I ask that because we're talking about men being silent, and we talk about young boys not being allowed to express their emotions. And I don't have sons, I have 3 daughters. But one thing that I have always tried to make sure that I do is apologize to my daughters when I know that I yelled when I could have been more emotionally intelligent, or I got frustrated with them when my frustration was already within me because of work or lack thereof, or whatever the case may be. And I do that specifically so that they can see what it looks like for a man to admit when he's wrong, right? That doesn't mean we don't necessarily have to have a long drawn out conversation, but I want my daughters to know that when a man is wrong, a good man has a good, honest, authentic, genuine man has no problem expressing the emotion, right, of being apologetic to you. So I wanted y'all's opinion on that and how you think that could improve the emotional intelligence of our kids in general.
Which, Shells, I'll say this before I get out of here. It's weird because over time I've had this conversation with my dad. My dad's like really not really an expressive person. Um, he's no nonsense. Well, he can joke around, but like has had trouble over time with his emotions and how to express them. So I remember we had a conversation one day, and for the first time that in the years I've known him, he's told me he was proud of me, proud of the man that I've become, and proud of who I was as a son. And um, I think that within itself helped me as a man to realize I helped better him as a person, just based off of the person that I was, like, because he realized, like, man, I can't really be so abrasive, you know, with Rock. I can't really be so rough with him. And like I think he was able, because I just let him be who he was. So I think he felt okay to express his emotions to me. And I think that's like where we go wrong with a lot of this. It's just like, because I don't have kids right now, but as a son, my relationship with my parents got better because I got good traits from each one of them that helped me better each one of them. Like I needed to be more assertive. So I needed my dad because my dad's an assertive person. My mom was caring and nurturing and compassionate. So a lot of the compassion and love I had came from her. So each one of those relationships helped better me as a man and helped me find that balance of what I needed. And I just think we need more of that, and more to be able to just express those things and be okay with it, and just let people be who they're going to be. And it worked out in the end, like, because people used to tell me, "Oh, I don't see how you deal with him. He's always yelling. He's always doing that." But he it worked out in the end because I just let him be. So when I got mad, I just go my way. Every once in a while, I miss him a little bit and I call him. So I just let things be what they're going to be, and not try to force people to be who we think they should be.
Good stuff, Will. Good stuff. I'll tell you a story either late in a little bit before we sign off, or I'll tell you about it another day. Let's let the ladies respond to that and give anything that y'all may have in closing on the topic. So we'll go Julie, Shan, Tay Rob, and then Viz, and then we'll get out of here for the night.
I think it's important to apologize to your children, you know, for whatever the apology is needed. Specifically because you're teaching them that you are taking responsibility for your action. I wasn't raised that way. If my parents did something that warranted an apology, they just didn't talk about it. They didn't bring it up. My dad probably bought me something to make me forget about it. Um, yeah, I was not raised that way, but I've learned that changing that is teaching my daughters to take responsibility for their actions. And in turn, when they need to apologize for something, uh, I expect that as well. So, but this was a great conversation. I really appreciate it. And thank you.
I appreciate you, Julie Bean. Shan.
You know, growing up, I don't really think I remember my parents apologizing either, but
They apologize to you because they ain't apologize.
But in their defense, I mean, and I'm not saying my parents were always right. I can't think of anything they would have to apologize for, though. But so unless it was so minor that it just went like, you know, I don't remember a time where I'm like, I was owed an apology. My parents didn't apologize. So I don't know. And maybe they did, maybe they did, because I don't remember any of it. But I think that, so I'm a little different. If I'm wrong, I don't care who it is. I don't mind apologizing. I don't care if it's my kid or if anything. If I know I'm in the wrong, I'm going to apologize. It's just who I am with anybody. So I guess I don't necessarily have that issue. And I work around kids every day. So sometimes I say something, I'm like, oh, I apologize. You know, I had it wrong. It's just a part of who I am. So I don't think the age level makes it different because I'm not always right. And I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong. It's just, you know.
Got you. Beautiful, beautiful. Say, Rob, the author, tell them about the book a little bit, right? And all of that good stuff.
I'll share my opinion first. I think I grew up in a house with a military parent, and there was not a lot of apologizing, not on my dad's part. But when I became a mom, for me, it was important to be able to apologize to my kids, because what I realized when I became a parent was that there is no instruction manual, and sometimes you fumble, you fumble things. And so I wanted my kids to know that being the parent doesn't make you perfect, and everything that you do isn't always going to be done in that perfection. But it also builds trust and not fear. I didn't want my kids to be afraid to talk to me. I wanted them to feel comfortable, and by apologizing, it humanized me for them. So they knew that my mom made mistakes, so maybe this is just a part of that whole life process. And then it teaches emotional intelligence. It teaches your children how to navigate conflict, how to figure out where they stand and who they are, and how to literally, how people say stand on business. Well, stand on your integrity, stand on business. If you say it, you do it, take the ownership of it. And so apologizing to my kids was very important to me. Oddly enough that you said, you know, apologizing, because for me, I became a mom at 17, and that was something that has always been very, very important to me and my kids. I wrote a book. It's called Hey You, a healing workbook for becoming, belonging, and breathing again. It has turned into a 5-book healing workbook series. It's not about fixing. It's about meeting a person where they are and saying that this is a part of the human experience. And though we may grieve, and though we may experience some of these other trying emotions or events in life, we're all healing from something. And it's teaching individuals how to, one, steward their own healing process. It's a workbook because if I wrote a book and gave it to people to read, then you observe my healing. But if it's a workbook, then you work your own healing in the process. And so if you've had the opportunity to even just flip through a couple of pages, it's also my story. It's also my becoming, and becoming, belonging, and breathing again were the hardest things for me to do after the greatest loss of my life. And so it talks about finding your balance after many different kinds of losses, many different kinds of experiences, but we don't realize that we're all grieving something. We only give it light and attend to it when it's death.
Beautiful, Tay Rob. Beautiful. Go get the workbook. I got my copy. It's right over there on my chest. So we good to go. Yeah. Viz, my man, I appreciate you riding this thing out with me. You got anything in closing? You could respond to the, apologizing to your kids thing, or anything you want to say in closing about the topic.
Me and my mom, we just had a really dope conversation in where I may have seen her the most vulnerable, and in acknowledging some of the things that she thought that she was trying to shield us from. But with me being the oldest, I saw it. So, and then also, even at that age, being able to acknowledge that she's attempting to, shield us from it. So for her to, for us to have had that conversation, I feel like it definitely brought us a lot closer, which is a beautiful thing. Now, if it would have happened earlier, or what effect would it have had? Who's to say? But I think with me being in the space that I'm in now, us having that conversation, of that transparency and vulnerability, and apologizing for what she thought she was protecting us from, but in a sense was more so exposing me to. But I feel like it made me the man that I am today. So I think that it's a beautiful thing to be able to have those type of conversations with your parents, with your uncles, with the people that we look at as being that demigod, because now it makes them more human and a part of that human experience. So I commend it. I think that it's a beautiful thing to do. I think all families should go to family therapy, even if everything is peachy. Um, just to have that space, just to sit down and have those conversations, those difficult conversations, or the conversations that we avoid, or the conversations that we think we have an understanding of, but we could dive deeper, into that. So I think that it's a go all the way around.
Good stuff, Viz. I appreciate you. Tay Rob's book is on Amazon.com. Is there anywhere else you want to do you have it on your website, Tay Rob?
I do. It's on my website. Oh, I have 2 dogs, and I promise you, they have been talking the entire time. I have a German Shepherd and a very loud Chihuahua. But you can get it on Amazon, but you can also get it on my website as well. And I'm having a book signing tomorrow. So tomorrow's a big day. I'm getting ready for it at Half Price Books. If you are in Fort Worth, in the Fort Worth area, West Fort Worth, then come on over to Half Price Books on Sherry Lane and visit with us. We're going to have some amazing conversations and talk through some pieces of best piece of advice and hey you. And you're welcome. I'd love to see you out. If you have a book, bring it with you. You can get it signed. If you want to buy a book, come on out. We'll be there.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Closing. I'm 42 years old. I was 42 years old when the first time, me and my father ever said I love you to one another. My father was not an absent father. We lived together. I lived with my father for 25 years or something like that, right? And I'll tell my story another day, but going through job loss and all of that good stuff, I called my dad the night after I did what I did that would eventually lead to my firing. And that was the first time I ever said to my father, I love you. And he said it back. And I knew that I needed to hear that, but I didn't know how thirsty my mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul was for that moment. And I the way I feel right now, I can go as far as to say is going through the pain and struggles that I've gone through. It was worth it just to hear that from my father, because one of my deepest fears was my father passing or getting to the point where he's on his deathbed. And then it's like, I guess it's pretty obvious we should say this now. To have that moment come before that and to be the son that initiated it. So I always wanted to hear it, and all I had to do to hear it was say it to him, you know. And I just thought that was so beautiful. So in that moment, we were two men expressing our emotions, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty dope." Now, and so we continue on. So I appreciate y'all for showing up tonight. We're gonna do the super chats, and then we'll get out of here. So if Dr. Fenton Rainey became a YouTube member. Shout out to subscribing to the Lapeef Network. Chris Reed 3227. I have two questions. If a woman wants to be equal like a man, just raise up the toilet when finished. And will America ever have a woman president? I think America will have a woman president before women agree to putting up the toilet seat. So good luck with that. Chris Reed again. A woman can't live without a man, and a man can't live without a woman. Even a homeless man got a woman. There's a homeless guy up the block from me at the merging point of the main roads. Him and his woman is always out there. So yeah. Sean for the win. A lot going on in the day-to-day stuff that I'm already processing. So whatever I can have that is simple and uncomplicated, I like to keep. Going deeper about ice cream seems unnecessarily exhausting. Beautiful.
Thank you, man. I agree with you.
This has been a really great experience. This is my first time hosting a show on the Lapeef Network. We're calling it The Common Ground. The idea behind the show is to bring up topics that allow people with opposing ideologies or opposing views to find common ground. Sometimes we will, sometimes we won't. It's all good. Either which way, my name is I Am Chells X. You can follow me at I Am Chells X everywhere. And if you're interested in a really great life coach, go to www.iamchellsx.com. It's been a pleasure here on the Lapeef Network. And JR, I appreciate you, my brother. Hashi Tashi.